because that's on.
Why isn't
Okay.
the camera working?
Yeah, that's the question. Is there like a little green light or something?
Yeah, there should be.
When it's
That
on,
sounded promising.
Mhm.
it's got, it's not on yet. We can keep looking at it because we're not gonna.
It's always so nerve-wracking about these stupid things.
So I can hear people.
So the microphones are working.
Time lag. You can hear me, it's like, it's the.
Yeah, there's a delay, yeah. Oh, yeah, hang on.
And nobody, so you know, everybody, it's live, so nobody say anything embarrassing. Like, last thing we need.
So,
How are you? I'm really good. This is working. Well, we don't know yet.
can you go stand there and we'll just organize this?
I feel like we should put a sign on the wall or something saying like broadcast live.
Okay, so now the camera, you can zoom it in.
What?
Do we want to or not?
No, that looks good. I think personally, what I would do to make the room look better and to get a better shot is like, let's move this over there. And then the shot of Pam will be with people in the foreground. It will look a little
And it
nicer.
won't be blocking.
And it won't be blocking
If we have an audience, right?
So let's just do that quick. Now the only thing is if I hit stop broadcast,
Don't.
you
Let's
just want to
just
keep
move it.
broadcasting.
Just mute it so that they can't
No,
hear
never
us.
mind. Don't do that either.
Okay, yeah.
We're supposed to be.
Oh
testing.
yeah, that's what we'll do.
Hold
Here,
on,
Ken, just wait 1 second.
Paul, watch your.
So that's great.
Okay.
Good. Looks good.
Hello, testing, testing, 1, 2. Testing, liberal.
I don't think I need this.
Because if this is too far away,
I think it'll be good. We did this before.
you did, eh?
So you want to mute it and turn off the video again? Oh, why?
Is it on now? The mic?
It is on now, but there'll be a lag for about 30 seconds.
camera's on.
You wanna test it on your computer?
So what are you getting now?
Not really, because.
Test the
Oh.
YouTube page. And then if it's on your, I think it is working.
We're good to go? Okay, all right, thanks.
All right.
Yeah, it's good.
Try
So your email is here. Okay. This could be the link to the new live chat.
Except the problem is they're not there with necessarily with their email access. But let's try it. I don't.
Well, they're using
Yeah,
a
yeah, they're
computer.
online, they're on the internet, so they should be able to do that.
How do I?
Is it
I'm gonna
reloading
check.
now?
I'm gonna see just a moment.
Oh, we got you back, says James. Yes, it's on, says Gord.
Hey.
Stephanie, you're a star.
Stephanie,
I don't have
well,
Well, they both say.
they're okay, so let's go.
but this might be a new one.
Well, they got it, so that's the point.
But I don't. That's the thing.
Well, it doesn't matter as long as they're getting it. Hello? Hello? All right, good. And so right now, do you see Pam walking across the floor? Yeah. Yeah. Okay, all right. Okay, thanks. Okay, so let's.
I don't really know.
Well, don't do anything because it's working out there. But if it's working, let's leave it. However, I mean, it was working before, now it stopped.
Paula.
Do you want her to sign out again?
Maybe. I just don't know. Like,
down there, but it's a challenge to get it over there.
oh shoot, it's out of focus. Look. Whoa.
I'm sitting down with a hole.
I did
Anyway,
this before.
welcome to you all. Thanks for coming.
What's this? That's not it. It just goes out of view.
It's like
Paula has volume.
you're engaged in the only writing associated with these kind of extreme events. The other locations in my life, you might be more willing to, we started to do this is our third attempt. This is the first time we've done strong with gun folks and history. There's some technical difficulties, but anyway, it's going good. And we're doing it because we believe it's a way of helping get non-members to engage in broader activities and all hands come to us. That's so our hope is that we'll continue to do that and work together. So let me just, you've got an agenda in front of us, a minor change from the meeting that we track. And I'm going to apologize in advance to those folks not here.
No, it's
and hopefully we can get this perspective so that we can use this during the meeting. So you don't have to come to us and figure all in the meeting well. But you can okay, let's. The first thing on the agenda is the boring part of the meeting, which is the bylaws, and second part is so dealing with the proposed bylaw, which is on the page of the agenda. I want to say, I think what they circulated in the email that you all got pretty well establishes the justification for it.
Sorry, like you call, the camera's out of focus. Do you know how to get it back
One
into
of the things,
focus?
the reason I do this is we have this bylaw adopted.
Unplug it and plug it back in.
But when the redistribution
That's what-
process was underway, all ridings that had plus or minus 50% population change. They were wound up. And
I'm gonna give you Stephanie. Do you mind just saying that to Stephanie? Just a second.
and of course, winding up the old ones, they were all virus.
I don't want to be picked up.
So we have to do this
it's-
again.
I got
And
it.
that's what.
I think I got it, yeah.
And the other thing that is important to think about in the bylaw
Thanks.
amendment, to use this screening
Okay,
for our
thanks.
annual general meetings, it would be virtually impossible if you were doing that to have nominations from the floor because you can't, I would make excuses for stronger for some reason. So, it just means that you try and make this thing work effectively. We discussed this and then found a meeting in February, so we need to take this under that thing. We just haven't got any Kevin, because every member is giving the opportunity to stand for office. Would be unrepresented if they win. And so we're comfortable that this will be more effective for the writing association. As well, sorry, for the members of the writing association. So, to get this thing going, I'm gonna ask the mover and the seconder. Carl's moving, and the seconding. Okay, so what we're gonna do is have questions, and the questions are gonna be from here and from the other locations in the text. And if there are any questions. So are there any questions about the bylaw here? Okay. We'll just wait for a minute. I mentioned in the email to you that there were 10 other writers and being treated with adopted some of the bylaw. And it's interesting. It's interesting in the sense that about half of the 10 are in writings like ours, communities, and the others are in, for example, Delta has this bylaw. But Delta is not particularly multi-community, so you got Hooknail Brains, Mission Nest, State Treasure Training, Hitman as Never Lived, and Kelowna, you have this bylaw in place now. And in addition, you have City Local, University of Virginia, Learning Notes, Seymour, that you can move on to buildings in North Shore, and the 50 books. So as you can see, there's a mixture between writings with a lot of folks and communities in them, and some don't. And I think the ones that don't, have multiple communities are doing it for the same reason that other communities, if you don't have, as I mentioned in the email, too few people to handle it, the contest with a number of people standing in positions of validating it. Any questions from them so far?
No, there's none from Squamish, I haven't heard from the other sites, so I'm assuming.
Okay. Well, that being the case, then how we deal with the situation is we show of hands vote amongst members. And in some of the places there may be non-members, so I would ask them to participate in the vote. And we'll have a show of hands vote for those in favor, those opposed, and those abstaining. And if you can hold your hand up until I say thanks, and then I'll take my shoes off. So all those in favor of the bylaw, please raise your hand. Keep it up for our first time. Okay. All those opposed? Any abstentions? And the other areas will do the same thing, and you get the results coming in the middle of the meeting. It needs 2/3 of those attending the meeting and voting blocks. Okay. Okay, so the good part of the meeting is meeting. And I'm going to call on Tom Robinson, our Vice President, to introduce our plan.
We're going to just take a moment to better position ourselves with respect to this camera. Is that?
If where you're standing is perfect, for some reason it has like a cloud around you, so you look very ethereal.
Then a halo or a
Well,
cloud?
it rains, and that's all good.
So, and
That's
then
all
for
good.
sound wise, did we have any problems with sound?
Yes, sound is not great, so we've asked for a microphone, and so we'll see if we can do that. So, I don't know if, and we'll try to speak a little louder.
Oh, maybe closer to the mic.
Yeah, a little closer.
All right. Well, thank you very much, everybody, for coming. And it's my pleasure to introduce Pam, although she doesn't really need a lot of an introduction, but I've been actively involved in the campaign, and I know firsthand that she is just an outstanding candidate, not only for our riding association, but also I think for the Liberal Party of Canada. So this is a pretty easy introduction as far as I'm concerned. Pam has experience that matters, and the people here in West Vancouver know that, and the people across the riding also know that she has served on councils in North and West Vancouver. She has been a two-term mayor as well in West Vancouver, so she has experience that is very relevant to issues in Canada today. Also, something that I think is just as important is that she's got very deep roots in this community, and so she really cares about our special places around our riding association, and there are so many. And so we have somebody in town that will be a guardian of what we feel makes our homes special to us. She's bright, she's experienced, she's well informed, and she's working really hard to learn about the issues in our riding. So on that note, I'd like to welcome Pam, and we're going to hear from Pam, and then we're going to take questions. Thanks. Pam. In thinking about this, I just decided not to write a speech. I was hoping it would be a conversation like this, and I'm very grateful to the Riding Association for including Whistler and two children's farmers, which is great. So this is a riding association event, and it's an invitation to having pulling ourselves together. And I particularly like to thank Pam Robertson for her leadership on the Riding Association, but also as an integral part and leader on our campaign team, which is confusing because the emails are from Pam to Pam all the time. And so I said to Pam, well, maybe we could just use our first two initials so we would know. So what's your middle name? And she says, your middle name is Joan, which is my name. Which then made me also think, no one knows that's my name, and I never use it because my last name is Goldsmith-Jones. So who would call someone Pamela Joan Goldsmith-Jones? My last name is my husband's last name. It's not a hyphenated name, which I get that question all the time. One time a woman said to me, I just can't stand those women that keep their name hyphenated, and I could never vote for someone like that. And I said, that's perfect, because my name is my hyphenated last name. The other thing about our last name, Doug Copeland's mother, I don't know if he's mother, but I do now, but at the time I didn't. She said to Doug, when I was running for mayor, I'm not voting for that person. She sounds like an old ball of tweed. So since then, I've been motivated to try not to be a ball of tweed. Although my background in West End is certainly Scottish, like so many. My great-grandfather built this house at 26 and Neighbors, which in those days, we could have built windows way back from the water, but in our family, he says, it would be a complete waste of firewood to build pretty close because of the wind and the rain and everything. So that's a little bit about my background. It's been thrilling to work throughout the riding since I received the nomination. I'd like to thank everybody for their support of me in getting that. When we started out, there were just over 300 members at the Liberal Party in our riding, and now they're closing in on 1,200. And that is the kind of metric that puts us right on track. Hi, I haven't handed me a microphone in 3 years. Nice to see you. Puts us on track for success in 2015. And so our team is growing. I'd like to welcome everybody to consider joining and volunteering. But since I've been nominated, I've spent all my time in the Sunshine Coast, up and down the Seaside Corridor, talking to people and making sure people know me, pricing outside of West Vancouver right now, as we all know. I'd like to begin by talking about the vital signs report that was released on the Sunshine Post last week. I was there for that. And to recognize that the biggest concern they have, and this is coming from community foundations across Canada, was that there is no long-form census. And so in order to understand everything, labor markets, trends there, immigration, we need that information. And so this is falling into community foundations more than ever before. For the Sunshine Coast, the top three concerns are the local economy, local jobs, and BC Ferries. And the discussion was about the integration of those. That the cuts to BC Ferries and the rising prices have resulted in a reduction in economic activity, rather than just it's not easy to get back and forth on the coast or elsewhere where our ferry system operates. And that is also related to childcare. For every dollar that we invest in childcare, $1.50 is generated in the economy. In Squamish, childcare is a key issue. It's a place where parents can afford a home. It's the youngest population in all of BC, which is quite different than West Vancouver. And childcare is central to people's ability to take a job that might be in Vancouver or Whistler. 75% of children under 5 have both parents working. And I learned that at the Paul Hirschhog discussion with the Riding Association. So what I'm trying to say is that childcare and the economy, transportation are integrated, and they're key issues for particularly Squamish and the Sunshine Coast. In West Vancouver, we've been losing door knocking, and people are generally interested, and this sounds maybe a bit abstract, in parliamentary democracy. Very aware of a system that is being continually eroded. This is my little book of what I've been doing since I got the nomination. And it starts with Sheila Fraser on the House, reminding us of the very same thing. And I think it's important not just to be critical, but to say what we do better. And so in thinking about the erosion of democracy, and we can talk about lots of examples of that, I think Justin Trudeau is demonstrating the opposite. He's open, he's engaging. When he spoke at the Vancouver Board of Trade, he said the central question is how does the federal government connect with provincial governments, with local governments, and with citizens in general to engage around things like a proper process for discussing what our energy future is, around what our self-concept is, and how that's translated in the world with regard to foreign policy. And we'll kind of go back later as well. I was asked online this week about young people and engagement, which is directly related to Justin's drive. And I'd like to just let you know with regard to our team, we have the head of our canvassing is at the UBC Law School, and he has his team. He's an incredibly energetic person, so that's right on the team. We have a youth chair who I met after school at a meeting last spring in Ambleside, who then asked to be on the team, and now he's, I think, the chair for BC Liberal Party. We have April Roth, who lives in Squamish, but is very involved in student politics in CAPU, and we'll be posted at CAPU next Monday, the Jonathan Wilkinson Beach. And I'm speaking at Quest in political science class also next week, and getting to know the faculty there and the students there. So, and then of course I am a student at SFU, and Terry Beaches teaches at SFU. It's interesting. He's about, I think he's 30, and I'm 53, and I'm the student, and he's the teacher. That just tells you about the way the world is today. So Justin is obviously attracting a lot of young people, and the young people on our team say it's the first politician, literally, they have ever related to at any level, and that's exciting for Canada. So I'm prepared to contribute the experience I have, obviously, to the future and towards supporting Justin and all of those that he's attracting to move and give their voices to what he would call the Canadian project. I'm just going to end now because I want to answer some questions from people, but we're in the middle of a municipal campaign. I was door knocking up until last week, and then I realized, you know, this is a long marathon for this year-long campaign. I have all the respect in the world for the local level of government, and I can't wait to be able to work together better with them. And so I'd like to just congratulate everybody who's very easy. There are big questions and big competitions going on throughout the riding. And so I'm going to be doing what I've been doing all along, house parties with people that don't see a lot of profile in the next month as we turn ourselves to the local level of government. So, Pam, did you want to start with a question for me? And I'll repeat it just because I know you're from.
Yeah, and also you can ask the specialist to text me the questions.
Yes, and for those of you listening in Seashell and Squamish, we would love your questions texted to Pam. Do they have the number?
I'm going to start with one from sharing on the post community that we met yesterday, which was around childcare. She's concerned with the council for this position policy on childcare. There have been a regular strikes between foreign policy violations. Just wondering what your perspective was on having their childcare all on agenda from what we
I can't speak to what the policy exactly should look like. I'm glad that Council Care has put it out there. The federal party was all ready to go and had agreement with the provinces a few years ago. So I think it's always been understood that it's central to look at policy. For myself, our experience in this in Vancouver is that we opened 3 chapters while I was mayor, and while there's lots to discuss about the fiscal side of it and what it costs a family, whether it's a $15 flat rate or whether it's part of the tax structure, there's all sorts of discussion there. The challenge is the actual physical spaces. And so that gets back to partnerships between 3 levels of government where the fiscal approach to the federal government needs to marry with the provincial government's ability to fully give say for renovating space, or local government's ability to provide a space. For one thing, it's clear that it is central to families today. It is very, very different from the past. And it's not only about the health of the family, it's about community, because that's where families get together. It's also about the labor market and what jobs people can take. In Squamish, for instance, people are telling me that one partner might have a good job locally, but there might not be 2. And so you're already looking at having to live quite ways away from where you live. And so childcare not only has to be available, the hours have to be more than So I know her daughter is an advocate. There's this great group on the post called Voice, which is where young families have started to speak up on issues like childcare and transportation and housing. And I'm thrilled to be learning from them and to be able to articulate their concerns. Any other questions? Yes, bye. Yes, that question was about climate change and what the Liberal Party policy is, and the fact that the Conservatives are doing next to nothing or actively in denial. I think, well, for sure, climate change is central, and energy policy and the economic policy are central to that imperative. Nobody is in denial about it in the Liberal Party. Justin Trudeau talks about energy and the need to begin to harness what is energy that's moving rather than energy that's in the ground. And we need to move to renewables and to incentivize that. I think the Liberal Party's policy on pipelines is emerging. It's come out clearly against the Enbridge pipeline. Justin is in favor, I believe, of Keystone contingent upon our ability, which is the moment we're not doing this, to insist on environmental standards that the United States has achieved, but that we are not wishing to meet, and that's part of the challenge that we have. It's hurting us in the world, the fact that we abandoned Kyoto, and the fact that we would not go to the UN, at the climate change conference recently, but that we would come the next week to announce foreign policy that we wouldn't even announce in our own country. So climate change is a way in to discussing a lot more than just the fact of climate change. It points to our, I think, deficit in integrating economic and energy policy. It points to the fact that scientists have been muzzled, that 85% of apparently civil servants in the country feel that they cannot say what they think. It points to manipulation, I believe, of the media, because our leadership hasn't held a public press conference since 2006 and flatly refuses to discuss the things it doesn't choose to do, which is not at all the same as what we know. So I am looking forward to pushing that agenda and talking about innovation and technology and hope, because we're dealing in reality, not denial.
Just a quick clarification question. Can you remind me, is just included opposition to Android centered on the endpoint of turning off the consumer, or is it just sort of like the opposition to the concept?
That question was about whether Justin Trudeau's opposition to Enbridge has to do with the point of departure, or maybe even the route, or if it's just a blanket opposition. My understanding is it's opposition, and I believe that's based on his commitment to community engagement, to First Nations rights, and our responsibility to one another. And I also think he is wishing to signal a shift away from expansion of the tar sands. I might be wrong about that in terms of what he's signaling, but it's clearly saying no and opening the door to what he say yes to, which to me is much more exciting.
My question is really, we think we don't what is your opinion?
Why? Ruth asked a question, perhaps the election is 6 months away, and apart from money, what's my greatest need? But I'd like to go back to money, actually. Skip over that. We are fundraising actively right now. We're just about to launch that. But also we volunteers to Big Ryan. What we've been doing really successfully so far, which I'm so available to the community, is hosting the community. On the coast, it's been so much fun because the room's full of people vote across all party lines, truly, and are genuinely engaged in this next federal election and open to change, but that's up to me and our team to earn. So, but also I had tea with a fellow, his name is John Marion, he's a blogger, he's I think about 70. He lives in Half Moon Bay, and I loved what he had to say online about politicians and respect, and whether or not we just give we speak to 3 speaking points, or whether we're opening up and allow ourselves to be vulnerable enough to deal with each other openly and honestly. And so I too with him, he was fired, he lit this fire last week, and we talked about life on the coast, and I think that kind of activity on my part is just as important. So I would welcome people to get in touch with me or the team and know that there is no group too small, that this campaign will be won one-on-one based on our relationships and based on our values as Canadians and our willingness to stand up for those. This is not a slick campaign at this stage. That will come, the pressure in the last month. But right now, I am working hard to meet us and connect us. My reputation in public life is for sure as a bridge builder, and so it's just fascinating to hear that, for instance, in Whistler, the central issue for them is the temporary foreign worker
question, because Harper has taken a kind of broad brush stroke and has really resulted in threatening the viability of a place like Bristol that relies on temporary funding. At the same time, that it is also putting in place a gold standard training program for people who live here and are willing to do the work. But talking about the fact that we in our riding need to support Whistler in this pursuit, because it has everything to do with the jobs that we have. For speaking of the Chamber of Commerce, you're saying, well, if you have a restaurant and you've got 4 staff, and you don't need anybody, what difference does it make to you? Well, if the restaurant next door closes, or the restaurant next door takes your staff, they're facing a situation where half of the restaurant might be closed this winter because they can't get the staff. So I'm enjoying sharing those issues with one another in order to strengthen our ties, rather than think of ourselves as 7 separate municipalities and 3 regional districts and 3 First Nations communities, as we want. I go to some. Yeah, okay.
I have 2 questions from this. What is the Liberal Party position on tankers on the coast and safety reasons? The profession tankers threatening Canada?
I don't know what the Liberal Party policy is on the Russian country threatening Haida Gwaii as of this morning. I could find out though, and I must say the team in Ottawa are highly responsive to our questions every time I call. Honestly, Cyrus Reporter, who is one of Justin's right hand man, is incredibly responsive, as is the office downtown. With regard to tankers, right now the party is saying they're putting all their interest in process. And I think that also relates to the opposition to Enbridge, because the role of the NEB was just such an abrogation of the process. So that's their view. They don't have a pro or a con view. I know that Terry Beach, who is the Liberal candidate in Seymour, North Burnaby, is door knocking on Burnaby Mountain, and he says there's obviously so much opposition there that this question is going to come to the party and it's going to come to us. And I'm well aware of the opposition in our riding. What's fascinating to me is that the question of these tankers has brought together residents because of their waterfront properties, local government because of the infrastructure that is along the waterfront, and local council asked Kenny Morgan what their response plan was. One of their responses was, well, how many volunteers do you have? And people in West End remember bringing the beach up in Ambleside in 1976 when there was an oil spill. Even the best oil spill response in the world right now can recover 10% of the oil. So this is a serious threat. And I think that the Liberal Party is going to have to openly discuss that. And I think it's a very exciting because of our uncertainty. It's an expression of curiosity and adaptability and what are the alternatives. And one of the things that really does bother me is if our country is all of a sudden a place where you can't talk about it. Yes, and then.
This is a bit of a long question, so hopefully you can capture it. But first of all, congratulations on the holding event.
Thank you, and thank you for the riding association.
I have a number of concerns. I'm a health professional coming out from the health perspective. Here in West Vancouver, we have probably 10% of children living in poverty, and it's even greater in some of the other communities in the riding and across the country. This persists. At the same time, they have this enormous concentration across the population. So we have growing inequity, persistent poverty, and we've had and climate change is related to these because which we've had a number of years of a regime with lower taxes, smaller government, $30 billion has gone over the federal government, fewer services like college education and so on. Deregulation, and that's what we're seeing the policy line is actually not having privatization and the whole dependence on trying to solve poverty by trickle down. That's a bankrupt policy. That's empirically not working. So my question to try and be precise is, can you comment that beyond the signal from Justin that he wants to cut down on fossil fuels, is there a signal that you're perceiving, and for something like 53 as part of it, I hope it would be, that there's a bit of a shift here to move away from small government and lower taxes to restoring enough revenue from some sources to do the appropriate social investments? You talked about childcare, and I congratulate you. You're going to have to pursue that one and keep it. If we go beyond that, to getting the federal government back into the healthcare leadership world, can they do more on policy? Can they do more on social housing? Can they do more on the infrastructure that we need to create the jobs that people are not doing? So that's a shift from neoliberal ideology to a more progressive political ideology. Do you think you're going there?
If I was Justin Trudeau, I could paraphrase that whole thing. However, that was a very broad question for the benefit of everyone else outside the room, about shifting from what's been referred to as neoliberal policies to more progressive policies, and shifting away from small government, which is inherently better somehow, as well as the cuts that are actually doing us. I'm reading a book right now. Is it Octobe, who wrote the book Taxes Are a Four-Letter Word? He's good. Yeah. Yes, and it's helpful in figuring out how to frame the fact that government is intended to be a force for good. Some of the cuts that have been made are harmful, and we're not being told about that. I mean, the obvious one is the veterans affairs. What isn't grateful and doesn't support our veterans? And not only that, the inability to take criticism in the way in which it's intended, which is to offer something better. So, Justin spends all his time talking about the middle class. He gets criticized for what is the middle class. I don't like the term middle class because I don't like the term class. But I think what he's really saying is that we have to pay attention to most people. That's what it really means. And this disparity, this online graph you can do, which estimates what we think the disparity is and versus what it really is. And the 0.0001% is really what the gap is, and most of us are really much lower in that income distribution than we think we are. Chrystia Freeland is a breath of fresh air in the party and a leader, and an indication of the kind of leader Justin is attracting, and I'm really hopeful that I'll be able to invite her to our run, and we'll have a full-on, large public discussion about that exact question. And we can help, we can contribute our voices to our understanding of what our priorities would be. I think if I'm elected, and if the Liberal Party are form the government, we are facing a decade of a whole bunch of hard work. Putting back together what was dismantled, or evaluating what we shouldn't put back the exact same way. And that's why I think it's exciting to have young voices and young candidates. When I say young, 40. That's part of the demographic. The other really interesting thing is this notion of a dependency deficit, which adds up people under 18 with people over 65 compared to who is of working age. And it is getting skewed, it's really skewed in a place like West Vancouver or Sechelt, but it's skewing in the country. And that is a huge, huge issue. The money we're putting, I think it's like $13,000 a year into people over 65, healthcare costs, the federal government tax rate, versus what are we doing to support childcare? And families are spending more on childcare than their university tuition, but they're also still paying off their university tuition. It's taking families 3 times as long to save 20% down as it did, 3 years ago. These are real challenges. But they also drive municipal policy, and that's why I think at least knowing this information and being able to talk about it is step one. And right now, we're not able to do that in Canada very well, from the federal level.
The equipment is probably gonna have to develop some of these policies before you let
Yeah, and that's my passion. We're waiting. It's challenging sometimes being a candidate. I'm really pleased that the party is hosting campaign team training for our teams in November downtown. And in December, the candidates are going to Ottawa for 3 days of training. And that's where we start to create synergies and teams of people. And I'm really looking forward to that as an actress. It starts to take off. Paul.
Well, one of the questions, I've got two questions. One of them that's in here, to say, well, what are we going to do as a local party for the international property buyers who come here, force our properties up, so our children can't afford to buy, leave the houses empty, it's just Australia, Singapore, other people put in the extra taxes. That would be another way to go to this. The other one is this vote in Britain on the climate scheme emphasizes the stupidity of closing the coast guard stations in local things. Is there any chance that the Liberal Party would maybe close some of those outstations?
So starting with the second question first, which is just about the closure of the Coast Guard station, which I can't really, I would fight for, and the demonstration of my commitment to that is the work that I did together with Jim Abram on Vancouver Island to keep that station's staff, and the federal government wanted to de-staff those. And this is somebody who's a light station keeper himself, and he imagined I moved through local government. And he said if I could pull together the port, to be like Metro Vancouver, BC Business Council, all of the business interests, and marry those with him out there in the field, maybe we could convince the Conservative Senate committee to change their minds. And that committee was made up of Nancy Lane and Carney and some others, and they did. And so that was interesting, working with Conservatives to change Conservative policy. And so similarly with the Coast Guard, I mean, that's a $900,000 budget item, but in the scheme of things, it's small-minded and it's certainly short-sighted. And nobody was consulted. Similarly, nobody was consulted recently with another fisheries office closing in West Seychelles. And the current MP basically said to the community, well, maybe you should be monitoring creeks and streams. Well, everybody already is as a volunteer, but it was a fisheries officer responsible for enforcing the federal law. So with regard to the first question, which is about money that flows from outside of Canada into real estate, which is an issue in West Vancouver. I think it's going to be a central issue in the municipal campaign in Vancouver. And what can be done about that? That is something that involves all three levels of government in terms of a lot of questions. I'm hesitant to launch into it because it takes all three levels of government, except to say that I'm capable and interested and always have worked with all three levels of government towards solutions and towards community discussions. I mean, I think that's the only way to go. West Vancouver, that came up at the first council, all candidates meeting on Wednesday. And I'm not sure what West Van wants to do about it. The challenge is the fact that neighborhoods are losing their connectivity. But I think that's traded off against personal freedoms. So, it's a big question. I think it's a good question. I know in Australia and Singapore, they have faced up to that question. And we should as well. But I don't have an answer. Yes.
In a way, I follow it. We certainly talked about the more federal and folks who were in Texas and you're focusing on community building, right? What I'm curious about is how do you set culture? How do you do it? in terms of bringing really strong policy and federal government? What does that look like? What do you look like? Get out of having
The question was, apart from the community building work I'm doing today and the sort of process questions and listening that the federal campaign is going through right now, how would I help to strengthen our connection to the federal party? What could we contribute to the country? And that's been one of the most interesting aspects of what I've been doing, because you're doing both at the same time. Our riding is viewed as winnable. We are viewed as a strong team with strong connections, so that when we are elected, there's a way in immediately. I am structuring our campaign, our whole team is structuring the campaign to be exactly in this way that we're beginning today. So starting in the new year, we will be doing public policy discussions, democracy talks or something like that. So far, the issues that are coming forward are on the environment, on the energy and the economy, on health, and on pulling those all together. I think if we do that, then we're on the record. And I know that certainly from the National Party's perspective, I'm viewed as a candidate that they are excited about having on board. I really value the relationships I've built over 20 years, and those are right across the region. That's 2 million people in the region of Metro Vancouver, but also in our riding. Putting those two together is really powerful. And so we will just keep going doing what we're doing. We definitely need to pay attention to, I can tell you that. And I think our role in policy, actually, I'm very hopeful, because of the people who live here and how much they care, that we can contribute.
I have a question. And it's to do with a little bit of a follow-up actually on the question. I was how we want to eradicate child poverty. We'll be talking to John Frenchman's promise to eradicate child poverty and challenges in Indigenous poverty and mental health.
The question is about eradicating child poverty, and also the fact that that is a high rates of child poverty in British Columbia. And also, for me, something I'm particularly interested in is the welfare of First Nations children who would be disproportionately represented in that group when positive. So again, where I think we're at as a country is actually not being afraid of saying that, and not being afraid of exploring ways to address that. These social questions seem to have gone unanswered for a long time. In many ways, I feel like we've lost a decade as we've focused on the things that seemingly our leader thinks he can control and thinks that there's a yes or no answer to. So it's a significant challenge. I've spent a lot of my career in public life in the social sort of aspect of things, and so I don't have any answer again, but I have a high regard for the work that the Vital Science Community Foundations have brought together for us, and the work that is sitting there that hasn't had anywhere to go.
We talked a number of times about various kinds of social needs and ways of government assistance besides the other side of how we make sure that we've got the survive social movements and serious so when you talk a little bit about involving the economy and investment funding, I think some of those were party money.
In terms of attracting investment, Canada has actually fallen with regard to its ranking in OECD countries with regard to attracting foreign investment. We are lagging in investment in innovation. We are lagging in productivity. These are things that apparently the current government takes credit for having improved upon, Well, we have not. So, you know, the economy is still, Joe Oliver was saying this morning, it's still sluggish. The question, I guess, is when it's sluggish, is that when you spend, as opposed to further reduce? So, you know, you're right in that, you know, the Liberal Party hasn't said much on the economy except to say it's always the economy. And I think with regard to our narrow view of the Canadian economy right now, that seems to be mostly about oil and gas, we have not done ourselves a service. It needs to be much more diverse than that. And in my little brochure, I talk about a diversified economy as the way to start that discussion. And for sure, you're falling behind in investing in innovation. There is a clean tech sector. It's really exciting, actually, to grow the clean tech sector. And that's something that we should all be talking about and all understanding what that actually means as a way of moving away from what I think of in the conception of the federal government right now, a very traditional economy. Any other questions? Yes. The question is about how many seats we expect to pick up in British Columbia. The party is organizing itself around forming a majority government, which means it's targeting 19 seats in BC, which is significant. Yeah. 2. Yeah. Joyce and Hetty holding down the fort.
I don't know if this is a question I have today, but we really recording this also with our voting from we could have swim for a couple months, and it was I personally never got to answer why this problem was. I was told that the pipes that will have to go out when they go out 1,000 feet.
So the question is about the contamination, pollution this summer, and the fact that people can swim on beaches, and what is the root cause of that? I think that's
we would have got to know the cause. Was it one of the
so.
Or was it our own?
I don't think anybody knows the answer yet. I went to the first council meeting in West End to hear the health officer discuss it. Very, very frustrating for the staff and the local elected officials because everybody wants to know the answer to that. If it was pollution from a ship, that's a serious federal offense. And so I myself am doubtful that that's what it is, but I don't know. With regard to the sewage pipe outflow, the water is moving the fastest. Right there, I was vice chair of the waste committee for years in Metro Vancouver, and so it raises the question of the sewage treatment plant, because right now we have primary treatment, and that's going to be moved to another location in North Van, but the pipes will still be the same, but it will be much higher level of treatment. The real question with regard to that is, it's I think at about a $700 million budget right now. It could go up to as much as $1 billion, I've heard. How are we pay for that? How strong is our relationship with the province and the federal government in order to get proper sharing? It could be that the price we bear as local taxpayers becomes close to what you're paying for school right now, like a whole other item. And that has everything to do with our relationships with the federal government. And so with regard to what the cause is, I don't know if the ocean is warmer. You know, that's what my mind goes to, but I don't know. And I don't think it's a conspiracy. I think the scientists and staff coming from the various departments are doing their best to figure out. And we'll never know, says the second row. Yeah. Very, very unfortunate. Very unfortunate. And also, in a way, heartening, because people were really, really concerned and following along and caring and asking good questions about it. Okay? That's it. Okay, Pamela Jones, tell me to stop talking. I think, are you going to wrap up now? Okay. Well, thank you very much, and I'd love your feedback. Give it to me straight.
Now, for the people here, you'll be here for a few minutes, so I have to wrap up too. But anyway, I wanted to say on behalf of the campaign team, by the way, that we're absolutely convinced that you're going to be our next leader. And I think that really Pam's talked about the difference that she can make in Ottawa for us, but I would just like to just add my own two bits to that. I look forward to a Canada that is more equitable and less mean-spirited. Those are the hopes that we hold. And also to a Canada that is working together to find common solutions instead of a situation where we're divided and fighting over the spoils, I guess. We can see something that's more consensus-based, which we talked about in terms of the land style. And Pam's already talked about that, a policy that is more based on knowledge and evidence, and where knowledge and evidence is respected. So I know the as we move forward. So do you want to take a seat, and I'm just going to go? Fine, wherever you have to say a few things about the upcoming election. The first thing I wanted to say to everybody is that Stephen Harper's counting on disengaged citizens to be elected with a majority government in 2015. That's what happened in 2011. We had low voter turnout. Low voter turnout benefits the Conservatives because they know who the voters are. They're not trying to get a majority of Canadians to vote for them. They're just trying to get between 38 and 40% enough to achieve a majority government. A very impressive machine to turn out your vote. So we need, and we are going to be working hard to inspire a higher voter turnout across our riding and across Canada, obviously at the party level. But the other thing is when citizens are disengaged, which is what Stephen Harper is hoping for, then people are just open to small soundbiting and slick marketing campaigns. And I believe that our team, and Pam has demonstrated that today with the dialogue that's taking place, we want to have meaningful conversations around this election. We want to make it matter. And so what we have done as a team is set a goal to identify 24,000 people who will vote for Pam in 2015. And that is our team, which is not large enough. We need more volunteers to help us, but that's what we're focused on achieving. So to everybody in the different rooms across the riding right now, and here in West Vancouver, we have a card called I'm Voting for Pam. So if you know that you're voting for Pam in 2015, we would love it if you would fill in the card, and there's a ballot box, the official ballot box at the back, and there's these cards at the back too, and there's ballot boxes in our off-site locations as well. Please let us know if you're voting for Pam, because we've started the count, and we're on our way to 24,000. Okay, the other thing I wanted to say is there's a couple of other ways you can help us, and I have to always support a liberal tradition which we have, which is called Pass the Hat. Now, I want to say that has changed somewhat as we're approaching this election campaign. Kim Fenton up on the coast said that we should pass the boot. She said that we want to boot the Conservative government out of office, and she said it should be a red boot. So I'm going to start off the red boot and ask our volunteers if they would pass the boot, and I'm going to let Ken put the lead on that. Thank you. Just to let you know that we are 100% funded by our donors, so without the help of our donors, we can't even hold events like this, and never mind all the events we are hoping to hold that will help us get elected. So by law, you can't put more than $20 in the booth, but if you want to contribute more than $20, you can certainly see us. The second thing, another way to help us achieve our goals is to volunteer, and Pam already talked about one of the things that's happening across the riding right now is that people are opening their homes up to their neighbors and their network and inviting Pam, and she's sitting down and they're having great conversations. And that's a terrific way to volunteer and help us achieve our goals, because we're taking along the I'm Voting Pam cards when we do these events and signing up more people to be voting for Pam in 2015. And my husband, Pete, and I worked with two of our volunteers on the coast, Luke and Linda, and had
house party for Pam up in Gibson's, and everybody was just thrilled. They had thought it was well worth their time, enjoyed meeting Pam, hearing what she had to say, and we also had a lot of fun. Also, there's a campaign team, and we welcome people to join us on the campaign team. The last thing I just wanted to say, and it is about the money, Pam talked a little bit about it earlier, and she is definitely underway in terms of fundraising. But I just wanted to put a plug in for people to think about, because one of the disadvantages for Pam compared to the other North Shore candidates is that she has to have multiple riding offices. She has to communicate with the electorate through multiple local media papers, like local papers, which are quite expensive. There's an awful lot that we need to do in terms of raising money for him. And there are attractive tax credits that will go along with that. So if you are interested in volunteering, joining the team, or making a donation, if you're one of our volunteers, we'd be happy to help you. So I'm going to say that in conclusion of my comments is that our campaign team is looking forward with enthusiasm to the 2015 election. So we kind of say, bring it on, we're ready. So Ken, we're going to wrap this up. And
Thank you for everybody's attention, and Pam for your insightful answers to those questions. I just wanted to do two things. This effort, and I'm going to ask the people in the other locations to do a bit of a debrief to how this went. But in particular, I want to acknowledge two of the volunteers who are involved in this exercise extremely, and that's Gail Rochester, our secretary, who more or less did all the organizing of it. She volunteered to go to Scottish, which is where she is, and Paula Slavicki, who's in Whistler, looking after that thing. So I want to thank them both particularly. And I want to, yes, well, there's a bunch of, I only mentioned two because of the sacrifice they went through, but I do appreciate Stephanie's help here, because I didn't spend too many nights with a good night's sleep last week. Anyway, I am pleased to announce that the results of the bylaw vote, 29 in favor, none opposed, and 1 abstention. So the bylaw will pass. Thank you very much for coming. See you at the next event.
I was asking. Hello, Graham.